never had any intentions of being a band. And I do think there was one day when we were writing, I think it was when we were over at my studio and we were writing Accidents Can Happen. Yeah. And we got about halfway through that song, and we all kind of looked at each other and went, this is really something that we hope has a long life and that we can all be involved in for quite some time. I think it was that day that we all thought, well, wouldn't it be fun to actually play this stuff live?
And that was the thing, is wouldn't it be fun? Then we turned the record in, and it was just called the Heroin Diary soundtrack. Yep. And it was the soundtrack to the book. And that's when management started going, what's the name of the band? We go, well, we're not really a band. And he goes, you don't understand that radio and all the portals out there, all the video portals, all the web portals are all loving this and they want to support it. So what's the name of the band? Because you guys are going to want to do this again. And we had those thoughts like, wouldn't it be great to do this again? Yeah. And that's when we came up with the band name. I think the band name solidified it, but we emotionally kind of already made that commitment.
Yeah, and all the bands out there are going to understand this. Coming up with a band name is such a drag. It's the least fun part of the entire musical experience. And so there was a day we were all sitting down after we'd gotten that call from management saying, you guys should have a band name, and we were all sitting around one of our studios just going, can you guys believe that we're having to sit here and come up with a band
name?
After
all these years.
After all these years.
Come on.
So it was actually harder to come up with a band name than it was to write any of these songs.
So we wrote the album was effortless. The band name was a pain in the ass. And I still have text messages from these guys, and we were like, it got to the point when it was just like we were sending ridiculous things. And DJ, I believe, is the one that said 6 a.m. And I went, that's cool, like number 6 a.m. Yeah. That's in tying into the Heroin Diaries thing. I thought it was kind of cool because it was 6 a.m. in the morning. Is that when you're coming down, or is that when you're getting up? It's this really interesting hour. I just thought it was really good. And then he said no, like 6, and then A for Ashvin, M for Michael. And I went, no. There's not going to be a band with my name in it.
For the record, I was pushing to just call the band SIXX.
And I was like, that
was my vote.
I wanted to call it Ashba.
He wanted to call it Ashba. I was for that before SIXX. So we settled on it, and enough people have gone, that's a clever name.
And it's brilliant. Most people don't even know that what it really stands for, probably. But it's like 3 producers, 3 songwriters, and it makes sense.
And there's actually a lot of irony. Remember when we were doing that radio show, and we found out that day that 6 a.m. are actually, what is it? It's the scientific numbers for a chemical in heroin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which none of us knew. But
that's true.
Yeah. It's also the hour the DJ never wakes up at.
Exactly. And now it haunts me because I'll be drifting off and the news guy's like, 6 a.m., da-da-da. I'm like, I feel like I'm late to a photo shoot or something.